Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My reverential pranams at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, dear brothers and sisters. Sai Ram to all of you. The topic that I have chosen for my talk today is Swami's divine grace is very precious. As devotees, what should we do to receive his divine grace? And so I've split my talk in two parts. In the first part, I'll explain why Swami's divine grace is very precious. And in the second part, I'll explain, as devotees, what should we do to receive that grace. With respect to Swami's divine grace being very precious, it is indeed very, very precious. In fact, there's nothing in this world as precious as Baba's divine grace. Because once we have Swami's divine grace, two very important things happen in our lives. Number one, our spiritual journey is accelerated. And number two, if we are ever in difficulty, Swami will protect us from that calamity. As far as Swami's divine grace being very precious, I mentioned that our spiritual journey is accelerated. And it is indeed accelerated. The fact is that all of us are on a spiritual journey, whether we are aware of it or not. And our spiritual journey is accelerated because we have Swami's divine grace. So in order to accelerate our spiritual journey, we always, always have to make the right choices in life. We cannot make any mistakes. So when we have Baba's divine grace, we realize that Swami knows everything about us. Swami knows all our thoughts, Swami knows all our words, and Swami knows all our deeds. So when we have that assurance and awareness as a result of His grace, we will always ask ourselves, will Swami approve of this conduct of mine? And only then we will make the right choices in life. So when we make always the right choices in life, we do not make any mistakes. And when we do not make any mistakes, our spiritual journey is automatically accelerated. The second major benefit of Baba's divine grace is his protection. No matter what difficulty we are faced with, it could be a health problem, a financial problem, it could be a problem in the family, it could be a problem at home, it could be a problem at work, or there's going to be an impending disaster, for example, an automobile accident. If we have Baba's divine grace, Baba will protect us, he would guide us, he would guard us. That is Swami's divine assurance to all his devotees. Now, all of us are here in this world because we still are carrying a karmic burden. And if we did not have any karmic burden, if our karmic burden was zero, then we would have achieved liberation. But all of us are here because we have a karmic burden to work out. So if we have Swami's divine grace, then Baba helps us through that karmic burden in one of three ways. In the first instance, Swami allows us to go through that karmic burden, but he lightens the load of that karmic burden. In the second instance, Swami again allows us to go through that karmic burden, but he nullifies the effect of that karmic burden. That is to say, he protects us from that karmic burden. There is no pain associated with that burden. And in the third case, Swami completely wipes off that karmic burden. So let me share three examples of how Baba helps us with our karmic burden. In the first instance, as I mentioned, Swami lightens the load of our karmic burden. Swami gives the example of a person whose karmic burden is equivalent to 100 rupees. Because his karmic burden is 100 rupees, in his pocket, he carries with him 100 coins of 1 rupee each. And as you can imagine, those coins are very, very heavy. What does Swami do? Swami takes away those 100 coins and replaces it with one note of 100 rupees. Now, 100 coins equals to 100 rupees. One note of 100 rupees is also 100 rupees. What's the major difference? Very simple. The coins are very heavy. The note is very light. So Baba allows us to go through that karmic burden, but he lightens the load of that karmic burden. In the second instance, Swami nullifies the pain that is associated with that karmic burden. Swami gives the example of a person who has a lot of pain. Because he has a lot of pain, he goes to the doctor, and the doctor gives him a morphine injection. Although the pain is there in the body, he does not feel the pain simply because of the morphine injection. Baba says, the pain is your karmic burden, morphine injection is my divine grace. In the third instance, Swami completely wipes off or removes the karmic burden. And there's a beautiful story of a student of Swami who had a major problem breathing. He had a very severe case of chronic asthma. He could hardly breathe during the day. He could hardly breathe during the night. And in fact, whistling sounds used to emanate during the breathing process. That's how bad his breathing was. So Swami calls him in for the interview, and in the interview room, Baba says, your breathing difficulty is a result of a major karmic burden, and you'll be suffering from that burden for the rest of your life. However, if I take on your karmic burden just for a little while, I'll wipe it off. So in the interview room, Baba began the process of taking over that student's karmic burden. Baba started breathing just like the student. Swami's breathing was very shallow, and in fact, whistling sounds started emanating during the breathing process. And this continued for several minutes. And then at the end of several minutes, Swami regained his normal breathing pattern. In the process, Baba completely wiped off his karmic burden. So in these three ways, Baba takes care of our karmic burden. A very important question arises for all devotees right now. And the question is, does Swami continue to take care of his devotees now that he is no longer with us in the physical form? And the answer is yes, absolutely, 100%. Swami continues to take care of his devotees. In order to understand this concept, we must realize that there are two forms of Swami. The first is the beautiful form, physical form of Swami that was with us from 1926 till the year 2011. And then there is the omnipresent form of Swami that has been with us throughout eternity. Swami's omnipresent form was with us in all of our previous lives on earth. And before that, Swami's omnipresent form is with us right now. And Swami's omnipresent form will be with us in our future lives and beyond. And dear brothers and sisters, it is that omnipresent form of Swami that is taking care of us right now. Let me share four beautiful stories, four beautiful experiences that I've had with Swami after he left the physical form. The first experience I had with Swami was in the year 2014, which is 3 years after Swami's Mahasamadhi. Baba came to me in a dream. Baba came to me in a dream and said, you have bubbles in your heart. May I have your permission to energize your heart? Baba said in the dream, you have bubbles in your heart. may I have your permission to energize your heart? Dear brothers and sisters, can you believe that? Here is Swami, who is the Purna avatar, which is the highest category amongst avatars. Here is Swami, who is the avatar of the age. Here is Swami, who is the source of all avatars. And here is Swami, who is the greatest avatar that has ever visited planet Earth. And Mother Earth herself was blessed that such a powerful being walked on Earth. That Swami, with so much humility, concern, and love, said, may I have your permission to energize your heart? So what could I say? I just said, yes, Swami, in my dream. And Baba placed both his hands on my chest and in a circular motion energized my heart. Now, we always have our annual physical exams, and just like everybody else, I do have my annual physical exam. All the physical exams are normal. I have absolutely no problem with my heart. And yet, Baba anticipated a potential problem in the future, and Baba took care of it as a result of his divine grace. That is the power of Baba's divine grace. The second story happened in the year 2016, which is 5 years after Swami's Mahasamadhi. Our son got married in that year, and he and his fiancée selected a very remote place in Northern California to have the wedding. The reason they selected a very remote place is because they are outdoor people. They like hiking and they like camping and things like that. So they had an outside wedding on the ground surrounded by trees. And that town is so small that there's only one mom and pop gas station, very tiny station with a very tiny convenience store attached to that. So the night before the wedding, I decided to fill up the automobile with gasoline. So I went to the pump, parked my car right there, went inside the convenience store. And when I entered, the attendant was taking care of a customer. So I was behind the customer and I was just looking around. And I did not see anything out of the ordinary, just the normal things that they sell in a convenience store, like cookies, candies, cigarettes, and coffee, chocolate, and things like that. So when it was my turn, I went to the attendant. I was right next to the counter. I gave him $30 so that he would ring me up. And while he rang me up, I had the opportunity to look around on the counter. And again, I did not see anything out of the ordinary. So I went back to the car, filled up with gas. It came to $27. I came back to the store to get my $3 in change. And when I entered the store, there were no customers. The attendant was free and he was there just behind the counter. I approached the counter and lo and behold, what did I see? I saw a beautiful box of incense sticks on the counter, and on both the sides of the box, there were identical pictures of Swami in the Abhayasta pose. Dear brothers and sisters, how did a box appear on the counter of a very small, tiny convenience store in a remote place of California when I approached the counter? There's no doubt in my mind that Swami placed it there. And in fact, we used it for the wedding the next day. The third story happened actually last year, that is 10 years after Swami's Mahasamadhi. I was driving the car to the bank. I was alone in the car. The car in front of me, the driver slowed down because she had to make a right turn. So I also slowed down, and the person behind me did not slow down, and I had a rear end collision. To me, it was a very minor accident for the simple fact that my body did not move even half an inch. I was right there. The body did not move front, back, sideways, nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, my body did not even move half an inch. So I got out of the car, walked to the other driver. He was a young adult, and I consoled him and I said, "Please don't worry. I am absolutely fine. Uh, Absolutely nothing has happened to me." He was alone in his car. I noted that the front part of his car was completely smashed and both the airbags had inflated. His car was taken to the junkyard and my car was taken to the body shop. The next day, a lady from the body shop called me and said, "Did you get hurt in the accident?" And I said, "No, not at all." And she said, "Well, we have $10,000 in damages, and so we're going to order the parts to fix the car." And I said, "Fine." Then the next day, another lady from the body shop called me and said, "Are you sure you did not get hurt?" And I said, "No, I'm completely fine." So she said, "There's more than $20,000 in damages. We have to total the car." And in fact, when we looked at the bottom of the car, there was a very big hole. So dear brothers and sisters, there are two ladies who are experts in automobile accidents. Both of them wanted to know if I was hurt. And I said I was not hurt because they anticipated that it was a major automobile accident. And here I'm saying that my body did not move even half an inch. So how do we reconcile these two divergent opinions? Very simple. It was a major accident, but because of Baba's divine grace, he converted that major accident into a minor accident so that I did not feel even the slightest effect of that accident. That is Swami's divine grace. The fourth story, again, I go back to more than 30 years ago when Swami was with us in the physical form. I was invited to give a talk at a Sai Baba center in New Jersey. And the topic of my talk was the significance of selfless service. So during my talk, I said one sentence: the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy. And as you know, Swami is omniscient, he is omnipresent, and he is omnipotent. And Swami shows his presence many times when flowers fall down or he manifests vibhuti or honey or kumkum. As soon as I said the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy, a big flower on the picture of Swami fell down. It fell on the garland and the whole garland started moving like that. And all of us could watch that. So again, a week later, the president of our Sai Center invited me to give a talk. So I gave the same talk. And when I said the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy, a flower fell down exactly at the same time, 2 weeks apart, same sentence, more than 30 years ago. Fast forward to a few years after Swami's Mahasamadhi, I was invited to give a talk at a Sai Baba center in London, England. And I was reviewing several teachings of Swami. And when I came to selfless service, I said, the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy. And as soon as I said that, there was a wall on my left side, and there was a big picture of Swami and a really big flower. And as soon as I said that, the flower fell down, and actually I could hear the flower when it fell down. And so after the my talk, I was exchanging pleasantries with several devotees. And one of them said, did you see the flower that fell down? And I said, yes, not only did I see it, I heard it. And he said something interesting. He said, exactly at the very same time, a flower on the lady's side also fell down. So one sentence, two flowers, one on the men's side, one on the lady's side, fell at the same time. What is beautiful is that these three instances are more than 25, 30 years apart. In the first instance, Swami is with us in the physical form. Right now, Swami is with us in the omnipresence form. This beautiful story demonstrates that Swami has not gone anywhere. The physical form may not be with us, but the omnipresent form is with us right now. So those are the four beautiful stories, experiences that I had with Swami after his Mahasamadhi. I had just mentioned the sentence that when I said the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy. So let me share a beautiful story of a devotee who was supposed to die in an automobile accident. And the reason Swami extended his life is because he used to selflessly serve the needy. This devotee had that automobile accident and he was supposed to die in that accident in the year 1990. And even now, he's still with us. So Swami has extended his life by many, many years. So let me briefly share what happened. Swami, as I said, is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Baba knows everything about everybody all the time. He knows what our future is. So Swami knew that this devotee was going to die in that accident. So 30 seconds before the automobile accident, Baba looked at his karmic bank balance and noted that he had enough of good karmas in his karmic bank balance, which prompted Swami to save him. Now, what had happened is that this devotee, his wife, and another friend were traveling from Bangalore to Prashanti Nilayam to have Swami's darshan. He was driving the car very fast, and a buffalo came across the road. And so he had to apply the brakes very hard. And since he was traveling very fast, he applied the brakes very hard. The car flipped over and came to a stop upside down. The car actually flipped over 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it came to a stop upside down. So the 4 wheels were on the top and the roof, which was completely smashed, was at the bottom. How did Baba save him? Swami told him later on that I ensured that the car, after it flipped over, stayed on the road because there was a ditch 20 feet deep. And if the car had gone in the ditch, there would have been a major explosion because there was so much gas in the automobile. The second way Baba saved him is, Baba said, I stopped the traffic in front of you as well as behind you so that there is no front-end collision or a rear-end collision. Now, later on, this devotee was in Vrindavan, and there was a group of Japanese devotees, and Baba asked him to talk about this accident. So after he described everything, he said, Swami protected me. Baba saved me. And Baba says, no, I did not save you. I did not protect you. So this devotee was a little bit confused. He was wondering, here is Swami, suppose he saved me, and Baba said he did not save me. So then Swami explained. Baba said, I did not save you. It was all your good karmas that saved you. And in fact, as I mentioned, 30 seconds before Swami knew that he was going to have the accident, Baba noted that he had enough of good karmas to protect him. Then Swami explained why he protected this Sai devotee. Baba said, you do a lot of selfless service. And when the recipients of the service come to thank you, you never, ever accept their thanks. you always, always say, thanks, Swami, because I am simply an instrument in Swami's divine hands. That attitude is Nishkam Karma, where we do all our work to the utmost of our ability, dedicated to Swami, and do not expect anything in return for that work, not even a thank you. Baba said, all those good acts came to me. I stored them in my heart. I am the custodian of all your good acts. And in times of need, it flows back to you as my divine grace. That is why I did not protect you, you protected yourself. So, dear brothers and sisters, selfless service is very important. If we have to describe Baba in one sentence, we can say Swami is the supreme embodiment of unconditional love and selfless service. So, selfless service is very important. Let me share another story that when Swami was with us in the physical form, I believe it was in the Vrindavan ashram. The finals exams had completed, and there were several students of Swami who were waiting for Baba's permission to go back home. As soon as the exams were over, there was one student, his father called him and said, your mother has been in the hospital for quite a few days because of pneumonia. She has just recovered. She has come back home. You please come home to take care of your mother because I have to go to another town to take care of my brother-in-law who has come down with a very serious ailment. So this student tells his father, as soon as I get the opportunity, I will ask Swami for his permission. Fortunately, that evening was able to speak to Swami, and he described the entire problem that I have to go home and all that. And Baba said, what? So this student again described the entire story, and Baba again said, what? So he said it the third time, and then Baba said, I do not understand, we'll talk later. And Swami went away. So this student was confused because he did not know whether Swami gave permission or not permission. So a student was sitting behind him said, you know what, tomorrow you offer a letter to Swami explaining exactly what the situation is, offer it to Swami so that then Swami can give you clear-cut guidance. Fortunately, he had the opportunity to offer that letter to Swami. Instead, Baba manifested Vibhuti for him. And Baba said, you send this Vibhuti, you will not go because if you go, I'll beat you up. That's what Swami said, I'll beat you up. Swami did not give him permission for 2 months. At the end of 2 months, Baba told the warden of the hostel, all those boys who are waiting for my permission to go home, line them up. I will give them Pad Namaskar so that they can go home. So this student was also there. So when Swami came to the student, Baba said, why have you not gone home? He said, Swami, you told me not to go home because you told me if I go home, I'll beat you up. So Baba said, what is your birth star? Now in India, as soon as a child is born, they plot the horoscope based on astrology, and they also know what the birth star is. So he said, Swami, I don't know. I'll have to check with my father. So he said, Baba said, don't worry. Your birth star is Bahraini. And then Swami said something very remarkable. Baba said, for the past 2 months, your birth star was in one constellation surrounded by 4 other stars. And that was a very dangerous period for you. If you had left the protection of the ashram, you would have either died or become a rotten tomato, meaning you would have been crippled for life. And then Baba said, I did not want that to happen. Then Swami said that the reason I said I will beat you up is because out of fear, you would stay in the ashram. If I had said, oh, please don't go, why do you want to go? You don't like it here, something like that, you would have gone, and serious consequences. In fact, Baba said, that day, 2 months ago, you were supposed to die. But I decided to extend your life as a result of my grace. Baba said, I gave temporary inconvenience to your family, but I prevented permanent despair because your family has high hopes for you. And that is why I extended your life as a result of my grace. Then Baba said, I have put a stamp as to how long you're going to be around. Don't worry about that. Just remember one thing. This is a life of extension as a result of my divine grace. Now, several months later, there were some issues in the family, so they called an astrologer so that the astrologer could give them guidance. So the astrologer said that get palm leaves, those betel leaves, and he said get them, whatever the number of people he wants to predict, whether it's father, mother, brother, sister, things like that. And he said, get that many leaves. So when the astrologer looked at the first leaf, he would look at it and then talk to them. When it came for this student and he picked up the leaf, that leaf was completely shattered. It was held together only by the two edges. And when the astrologer looked at that betel leaf, which was completely smashed, he said, I'm not going to say anything about this boy because it is a Param Shakti or a supreme power that is still taking care of him because he shouldn't have been here. So dear brothers and sisters, this is a beautiful example of Swami's divine grace where he extended the life of his student. Let me go to the second part of my talk, which is, as Sai devotees, what should we do to receive his divine grace? And Baba has provided the answer in one short sentence. Baba says, full-time devotees receive full-time grace from Baba, and part-time devotees only receive part-time grace from Baba. Full-time devotees receive full-time grace from Swami, and part-time devotees receive part-time grace from Baba. So, dear brothers and sisters, if we want Swami's divine grace in ample measure, we have to become full-time devotees of Baba. Swami gave a beautiful example. Swami gave the example of a person who has a part-time job. Because he has a part-time job, he receives part-time wages. Now, if this employee had a full-time job, he would have received full-time wages. So if this part-time employee goes to his boss and says, give me full-time wages, he is not going to get it, simply because he's a part-time employee. Baba says, part-time devotees receive part-time grace. Full-time devotees receive full-time grace. So how do we become full-time devotees of Baba? Very simple. Learn about all of Baba's teachings and then make an earnest attempt to practice all of those teachings. When we become full-time devotees, we receive full-time grace, as I said. If we have a casual attitude towards practicing Baba's teachings, and we practice only those teachings that are convenient for us, and do not practice the other teachings, then we are part-time devotees. So we have to become full-time devotees of Baba. So how do we become full-time devotees of Baba? Learn about all of Baba's teachings. Now, If we add up all the pages that are in Satya Sai Speaks, Divahinis, and Summer Showers, it comes to about 18,000 pages. And that's quite a chore to read all those 18,000 pages. So how do we try and learn about Baba's teachings? Very simple. If we want to learn about a specific teaching of Swami, for example, love, we should read Prema Vahini. If we want to know a specific significance of a festival, for example, Guru Purnima, then we can go to Satya Sai Speaks, because on Guru Purnima Day, Baba has given so many discourses on the significance of Guru Purnima, which we can access through Satya Sai Speaks. If we want to know a summary of Swami's teachings, then our international website has so many messages, one paragraph messages, so we can get a summary of Baba's teachings in a very condensed form. So in this way, by sincerely learning about Baba's teachings and practicing them, we can become full-time devotees. When we become full-time devotees of Baba, two things happen. Number one, we receive Swami's divine grace. And number two, we have symbolically taken one step towards Baba. When we take that symbolic one step towards Baba, Baba takes 3 steps towards us. On one occasion, Baba said, if you take 1 step towards me, I will take 100 steps towards you to wipe off your devotional tears. Now, if we take that symbolic 1 step towards Swami, Baba comes into our lives because Baba is waiting for us for that symbolic 1 step that we have to take towards him. If we have a casual attitude towards Baba's teachings and we are part-time devotees of Baba, then we have not taken that symbolic 1 step towards Baba. When we do not take that symbolic 1 step towards Swami, Baba leaves us alone and allows us to work out our own karmas. Swami will not interfere in our free will simply because free will is a gift from God himself, and Baba is not about to take away that precious gift that Baba has given to all of mankind. So dear brothers and sisters, if we want Swami's divine grace in ample measure, we should become full-time devotees of Baba. I had just touched upon 3 important points. One is becoming full-time devotees of Baba. The second one was Swami's divine grace. And the third was the law of karma. All these 3 points are beautifully covered in a great story that appears in the book Conversations with Satya Sai Baba by Dr. John Hislop. Those of you who are familiar with the book are aware that Dr. Hislop, who was the head of our international organization for many years, had posed some beautiful questions to Swami. And Swami, out of his infinite grace, had provided some really beautiful answers. So, one of the questions that Dr. Hislop posed to Swami had to do with terminal cancer. And the question was, can Swami cure terminal cancer? And Swami responded by saying that, yes, I can cure terminal cancer, and gave the example of a lady devotee whom Dr. Hislop knew. This devotee, her whole body was filled with cancer cells. The doctors had given up all hope, and the doctors had given her only a few days to live. So in order for her last few days to be comfortable, the doctors removed all the tubes that were on her body. They sewed up all the incisions that were on her body so that she could die in peace. Because in the estimation of the doctors, she was going to die in a few days. However, Swami decided to intervene. and cured her completely of her terminal cancer. And then Baba said to Dr. Hislop, this lady is strong and healthy now, and she works all day long. So Dr. Hislop had a follow-up question. He said, Swami, when devotees fail to get cured by Baba, they attribute it to the fact that their karma is not ready. And Swami gave one of the most profound answers that I have ever come across. Baba said, if I am pleased with a person, I heal that person at once. No karma can prevent it. If I am pleased with a person, I heal that person at once. No karma can prevent it. And then, dear brothers and sisters, in a little while, I'll explain how we can please Baba, because the only thing we have to do on our spiritual journey is to please Baba. That's all, nothing more, nothing less. So Dr. Hislop had a follow-up question. He said, Swami, when people fail to get cured by Baba, they attribute it to the fact that their karma is not ready. And Swami gave another beautiful answer. Baba said, if a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teachings, Swami's grace is automatic. No karma can prevent it. In this beautiful sentence, if a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teachings, Swami's grace is automatic. No karma can prevent it. Baba is saying four things. Number one, we have to be living Swami's teaching. That is to say, we have to be practicing Baba's teachings. If we become full-time devotees of Baba by practicing all of Swami's teachings, then automatically we get rid of our bad qualities. When we do that, our spiritual heart becomes pure, and Swami is pleased with us. So we practice Baba's teachings, we purify our heart, Baba is pleased with us, we receive Swami's divine grace, and when we have Swami's divine grace, the law of karma does not apply if that is Swami's divine will. So when Baba says, if a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teachings, Swami's grace is automatic, no karma can prevent it. So we need to become full-time devotees of Baba. I had just mentioned that Baba saying, if I am pleased with a person, I heal that person at once, no karma can prevent that. So how do we please Baba? Baba provides the answer in one short sentence. Swami says, if you follow the injunctions of the Lord, then the Lord will be pleased with you. Injunctions means a directive or a command. What does Swami command us to do? What does Swami want from us? What does Swami ask us to do? And Swami provides the answer in three short sentences. Baba says, practice what I teach, that is enough, that is all I ask. Dear brothers and sisters, Swami summed up his entire mission on earth in these three short sentences. Practice what I teach, that is enough, that is all I ask. So if we sincerely and earnestly practice Baba's teachings, then Baba is pleased with us. And when Baba is pleased with us, our spiritual journey is accelerated and we should not worry about any impending disaster. Now, Swami's divine words are exceedingly precious. In fact, even if we read one paragraph from Swami, it has the potency to light up the flame that is dormant in our spiritual heart. It illuminates. That's how Swami's divine words are so precious. And so it's very important for us to read about Baba's literature, Swami's divine words. So let me share two beautiful stories of how, after reading Swami's divine words, two individuals brought about a complete transformation in their hearts. So there was a husband and wife couple, both of them were doctors. This happened in India. They were part of another spiritual organization and they heard about the Satya Sai organization. So they wanted to join the organization. So they went to their guru to seek his permission with the other organization to join the Satya Sai organization. Because of time constraints, I'm shortening the story. Now, this guru was a very, very advanced soul. In fact, he was so advanced that he knew that after this life, he's going to have two more lives. And in those two next lives, he's again going to become as a very advanced guru. And after those two next lives, he's going to achieve liberation. So the guru said that, let me read two books written by Swami. And after I read those books, I'll give you, I will say yes or no. And so Swami, these two doctors dropped off the books to this guru and went home. 2 days later, the attendant, the assistant to the guru called these doctors and said, the guru wants to see you right away. For the past 2 days, he's been in his room. The only thing he's doing is reading the two books. He has not even come out of his room for the past 2 days. So when these doctors arrived, the guru met them and he said something remarkable. He said, Swami appeared in my room in the physical form. And Baba said something very remarkable. Swami said, for the past 2 days, you have been reading two of my books. As a result of that, I am canceling your next two lives so that this will be your last life. What a profound story. Baba has said, I have come to grant you liberation itself. And here is a beautiful story of Swami granting liberation to this very advanced soul. Let me share another story. Many years ago, I wrote a book. I compiled a book titled Faith in God, which had several hundred quotations on faith. So I received a letter from a Sai devotee who said that he wanted permission to translate that book. So what had happened is that this gentleman and his wife, they went from England to North India to meet with their family, and then the two of them were going to go to Prashanti Nilayam to have Baba Darshan. So they asked their niece to join them, and the niece was not a Sai devotee, so she said initially no. So the niece's uncle and aunt basically dragged her to Prashanti Nilayam. So the three of them reached Prashanti Nilayam. This young adult, the niece who was a young adult at that time, was walking in the ashram. She came to the bookstore. She went inside the bookstore, was looking at all the books that were there. She picked up the book Faith in God, which I had compiled, and then she bought it and went to her room. She read the first page, she read the second page, she read the third page, and in one sitting, she read the entire book of more than 200 pages, was absolutely and completely transformed. She went back to her town in North India, joined the Satya Sai Baba Center, learned all the things that they do, participated in all the activities, also learned how to meditate. And one day in her puja room, prayer room, she was meditating. And when she was meditating, she heard Baba's voice. And Baba said, my birthday is approaching soon. What kind of a gift are you going to give me on my birthday? What a profound statement from Swami, which this young adult heard Baba's voice. When she opened her eyes fell on the book Faith in God. And a thought came in her mind that she should translate the book in the Hindi language. And so the uncle wrote to me seeking my permission, which obviously I gave. So, dear brothers and sisters, these quickly show us that Swami's divine words are very precious to read so that we can bring about a complete transformation in our lives. Let me provide a summary of what we learned today, and then I'll share some concluding remarks. The topic for my talk was Swami's divine grace is very precious. As devotees, what should we do to receive his divine grace? Swami's divine grace is indeed very precious. When we have Swami's divine grace, two things happen. Our spiritual journey is accelerated. And number two, Swami protects us if we are confronted with a very serious problem. I had mentioned that Swami is still with us in the omnipresent form. I talked about my several experiences that I had. And I also mentioned that the three ways in which Baba takes care of our karmic burden. The personal experiences that I had was Swami energizing my heart. Number two, Swami manifesting a box of incense sticks. Number three, Swami protecting me from a major automobile accident. And Swami showing his omnipresence when I said the words, the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy. I also shared two beautiful examples of a devotee who was supposed to die in an automobile accident when the car flipped over 4 times, but Baba protected him simply because he used to do selfless service. Then I also shared the story of the devotee who was supposed to die, and Baba told him to stay in the ashram, and in the process extended his life. The second part of my talk was how to become full-time devotees. The only way we can become full-time devotees is to practice all of Baba's teachings. When we do that, Swami showers his grace on us. We take one step towards Baba. And I also shared the beautiful example which happened in Dr. Hislop's book, Conversations with Swami. And then I also shared how the two stories where two individuals, their entire lives were completely transformed. One of the guru, very advanced soul, and the other of the young adult. Let me share a few concluding remarks. Dear brothers and sisters, all of us are really, really fortunate that we recognize Baba to be an avatar while he was amongst us, because it is not easy to recognize an avatar. Baba says that to even think of God, our past karmas have to be very good, and to recognize an avatar while he's amongst us is very, very difficult. In order to do that, two very important things have to happen. Our past karmas over many, many previous lives have to be really good. And number two, we have to have Baba's divine grace. If it was easy to recognize an avatar, why is it that not the entire world is Baba's devotees? On one occasion, a devotee was having a conversation with Swami, and he said, Swami, I must have done something really good in a previous life to be able to be in thy divine presence in this lifetime. And Baba said, not one life, many, many previous lives. In fact, Baba said, I have prepared you over many, many previous lives for the role that I have given you to play in this lifetime. And what is the role that Swami has given us to play in this lifetime? Just one, transformation of the spiritual heart so that we continue our journey towards liberation. Transformation of the spiritual heart is Swami's greatest miracle, and liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth is Swami's most important teaching. Once Baba said, your lives are intertwined with my earthly career. Act always in accordance with that great privilege. What a beautiful statement from Swami. Your lives are intertwined with my earthly career, act always in accordance with that great privilege. And on another occasion, Baba said, do not let go of this chance to be so close to me, because you don't know when again in another future life you'll have the privilege to be in the presence of the divine avatar. Swami is a Purna avatar, and Purna avatars do not let go. Purna avatars do not come into the world very often. There was a gap of more than 5,000 years between the presence of Lord Krishna and Swami. So let us not let go of this chance. I believe that the greatest gift that Swami has given us, not only in this life, but in all our previous lives, is the fact that he has allowed us through his divine grace to recognize him as an avatar. So let us not let us not miss this great opportunity. Swami has said that nobody can come to me until I will it. So it is Baba's divine will that we become devotees. On one occasion, Swami was talking to a devotee and he said, don't think you came here on your own. I had willed that you come here. Baba then said, if you had come here and I had not willed that you be here, you would have landed in the village of Puttaparthi, but you would have taken circles around the ashram, but you would have not found the gates leading to the ashram. So dear brothers and sisters, we are indeed very fortunate, and let us use this great opportunity to become full-time devotees of Baba by practicing all of his Swami's teachings so that we can find fulfillment in our life. Thank you, and Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, thank you. Very outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we can open it up for questions. So I have a question. So there are two things you said. So that when we receive Swami's grace, our spiritual journey is accelerated, and then Swami protects us always, especially in our times of need. In your view, how do we recognize what progress we are making on the spiritual path, or should we not bother about that? How do we know that we are making progress? Are there any milestones?
Baba says that in order to make spiritual progress, we should always focus on Swami. And then we will realize that we are making spiritual progress. For example, Baba says, early in the morning you get up, you think of Swami. Until you go to bed, you think of Swami. Any work you do, keep Swami in the back of your mind. And Baba has clearly stated that there is no such thing as spiritual work and worldly work. Everything has to be spiritualized. So we constantly focus on Swami. So when we focus on Swami, automatically we make spiritual progress. And how do we know that we make spiritual progress? Within, we know that today we are better than what we were yesterday, and yesterday we are better than what we were day before yesterday. For example, the best way to know whether we are making spiritual progress is our spouse. Our spouse are always tell us what deficiencies we have in our character, and they give us advice. And Baba said, your best friend, you should seek the advice of your best friend. And Baba says your best friend is not the one who praises you, but the one who criticizes you. And it is our spouses who always give us advice. So if our spouse says that you have a short temper, assume that you indeed have a short temper. If we have an ego problem, we will not admit to that. But if we deflate our ego and listen that you indeed have a short temper, or if your spouse says that you spend too much money You spend too much money on gadgets, the new gadgets, you spend too much money on clothes, you spend too much money on this, and you do not save money enough. If you listen to that advice, and if you later on find out that your temper has subsided, you are listening to people, then you know that you are making spiritual progress. So we should focus on Swami all the time, and any advice that we get from anybody, we should not criticize that person and say that you are wrong, I am right, but you should listen to it and try and make spiritual progress. And Baba says, for example, that we should carry Swami with us all the time. If we are in the car driving to work, we should assume that Swami is with us in the rear seat. And when we know that Swami is behind us and we feel that Swami is behind us, then we know that we are making the right choices. So to answer your question, do we know how we are making spiritual progress? Very simple. Are we better today than we were yesterday? And are we better yesterday than we were several days ago? If we know that, then we are making spiritual progress.
Thank you. Any other questions from anybody else? I have another one. So you didn't talk about this particular part, I think, which is how did you come to Swami? How did you have this faith? Because that whole recognition of an avatar, that is a blessing by itself. So maybe you want to share with us, how did you actually come into the fold?
Sure. I did not come to Swami through the traditional, I'm obviously a Hindu, but I did not come through the traditional way that we believed in Swami. I believe in Rama and Krishna, and then we heard about Swami and all. I was fascinated by theosophy. So even when I was in college, I was very much involved in theosophy. And later on, according to people who believed in theosophy, they were talking about avatars and solar avatars and interplanetary avatars and cosmic avatars and like that. And then through my reading, I came to know that Baba is a cosmic being. And that's how I came to know about Swami. And a beautiful experience happened. I had my first darshan of Swami in the year 1984 in November. And fortunately, the taxi driver, my cousin and I were in the automobile. We landed in the ashram and the taxi driver said, "Oh, Swami's darshan is starting." So I ran into the mandir. At that time, there was some space in the mandir. I sat down there, and within a minute or two, I saw Swami walk in, and all the hair on my face stood up. I've never had that experience before. All the hair on my face stood up, and I had the feeling that I have arrived. Now, in my subconscious, I believe that I was a Shirdi Sai Baba devotee also. And the most powerful dream I had was of Shirdi Sai Baba. And I'll take a few minutes to experience that, because remember I said that Baba said that I prepared you over many, many previous lives. And so I have a strong feeling that I was the Shirdi Sai Baba devotee. So I had a very powerful dream in the year 1985. In the dream, there were three of us in Shirdi, my wife and I, and two other couples. So 6 of us were there. So in the dream, I tell the other 5 that I want to go to the Samadhi of Shirdi Sai. And so I went there alone. And when I was at the Samadhi, and this is all in my dream, when I was there, I folded my hands and I was just looking at the Samadhi, and a beautiful miracle happened. Shirdi Sai Baba became alive. He came out of the Samadhi, he was alive, touched my shoulder on the right side, and in English said, "You are a very good man." And as soon as Shirdi Sai touched me, a whole warmth, electric current flowed through my entire body, and I began to cry. And in my dream, I went back to the other 5 and said, this is what happened. And so they got all excited and said, let's see again. So 6 of us again went to the Samadhi. I was praying. Shirdi Sai again came out, again touched me and said, you are a very good man. And I again cried. And my wife actually woke me up. She said that you are crying now, what happened? And I just explained. So I came to Swami through theosophy, but as Swami said, I've prepared you over many previous lives. It has, I believe I was with Shirdi Sai also in a previous life.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Rajat or Poonam, any follow-on questions from your side?
Yeah, sure. Sairam, thank you so much. That was truly, truly enlightening talk. As you were speaking, I was thinking about sometimes we in our human form create unnecessary complexity. And I suspect this is something that I do a lot. So we think we're following Swami's teachings, and then we create dilemmas and conundrums when teachings are really so simple when we can see through them. So I'm wondering if you can speak about, if all work is spiritual work, and if you just keep Swami in mind and do what's in front of you, it's spiritual work. But there are times when what is in front of you requires you to make trade-offs, whether you follow one set of duties or another, because we all play multiple roles in our lives. We have multiple, ways in which we need to fulfill our day-to-day lives. We're all, particularly in this, parents, whatever our career and work life is, family relationships, etc. Talk a little bit about what does it mean to do spiritual work when you need to make trade-offs between these duties, and we are thinking about them. Maybe, and if you can, if you have examples of that, I would love to learn from you.
That's a beautiful question. And as parents, I also go through, all parents also go through that. Baba says that your children are not your children, they are a gift from God, and you have to take care of them. Now, we have to do our very best to take care of our children, to focus on Swami's teachings and tell them that if they go astray, these are what the consequences are. And in my opinion, one of the most difficult tasks that we have as parents is to take care of our children, because children are growing up. So how do we do that? In my own life, what I've found is that my sole goal in life is to improve myself. I am not interested in improving other people. The best way I can improve other people is to shower my love on them and set an example. So if I'm a very nice person, people will come to me and say, why do you always have a sunny disposition, for example? Why do you always talk to people politely? And then I can say, I'm a devotee of Swami. As far as the children or at work and all that, we have to remember that different people come with different personalities. There was a well-known devotee of Swami who used to go on Wall Street, and apparently he had issues with that person. So he started beginning to admire the tie that he had in this person. And later on, he realized that this person also is an embodiment of divinity. So if we realize two things, that we are here to only improve ourselves and not improve others, and realize that the other person is exactly the same as you based on the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God, and that person is working out his own karmas, life becomes easily. We have to do our very best, but then we have to let go. And that's very difficult. That's a beautiful question, but we have to remember that we are on our own spiritual journey, and we have to try our best and leave the rest to Swami.
No, thank you. Thank you for that answer. Many years ago during Guru Purnima discourse, I was in Parthi at that time, and Swami said something, and I don't remember what year it was, so I have not been able to go back and find the discourse, but he said something about the spiritual path is the most selfish and most lonely path. And in a sense, that's what you're saying, because there's so much truth in that statement.
Right. Yeah. It is, yeah. Actually, spiritual journey is an individual journey, and you alone are responsible for your own conduct. Other people in your orbit are there to guide you, to criticize you and all. And if we realize that those people are helping us to improve ourselves, instead of criticizing them, we say, thank you, Swami, for sending me this beautiful person who is constantly advising me what to do. And Swami, let me share a story. Baba said that a marriage is like two rough stones coming together, and there is constant grinding. And what is the end result of the two rough stones constant grinding? Beautiful, shiny stones, right? Rough stones, because of constant grinding, have been doing that. So we should be very happy about all the circumstances we are facing in our lives and accept that as Swami's challenge, because Swami is helping us to improve. And everything, if we have 100% faith that whatever is happening in our lives is a result of Swami's divine will, we will accept that and say, Swami, thank you for giving me this challenge. I'm going to use my inner self to get guidance from within, and I'm going to make the right choices in life, and we'll be happy.
Thank you so much.
Al, anything? Al, are you there? I thought you wanted to say hi to.
Hi, Sairam, Vijay. It's good to hear you and see you. Sal, baby.
Hi. Fine, thank you.
You're good. Wonderful talking. Thank you so much for sharing your deepest and memories and teachings from Swami. It inspires us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anything to add, contribute?
Sorry. Sairam Vamshiji, thank you.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Sairam Vijay, thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful discourse from you. Now we have quite a few children attending today, from ages of maybe 7 to 16. Any message that you can give them, because they are also living in a world that is very different from, when I was growing as a parent. So any message for them, I think, from you would be great. Thank you, Sairam.
Yes. We are also facing, my children are a little older than that. I think that the best way we can convey an important message is by our own conduct. And if we are loving to everybody all the time, of course, there has to be discipline, no doubt about that. Rather than arguing with children, rather than having differences of opinions and all that, if we talk to them with so much love and tell them of the consequences of good actions and bad actions, then hopefully we will realize that our children will also follow that path. And we can only pray to Swami that, Swami, I'm doing my very best under the circumstances. Please guide me, and Swami will be there to help us. But ultimately, we have to remember, as somebody said, that spiritual journey is a very lonely journey. And we have to focus on that and help everybody who comes in our orbit, children, parents, grandparents, things like that.
Sairam, thank you so much.
Thank you. So I think if there are no more questions, then we can go to the closing prayers. And thank you, Brother Vijay, again. At least I found it, I made quite a few notes over here, and then I'll certainly take a look at your books. So thank you very much again. And we'll go to closing prayers at this time. Sairam.
Thank you.